Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from ThoughtChange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again, and I'm very excited about today's guest, Jonathan Goldman. He is the founder of the Essential Light Institute. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy to be with you.
First of all, I love the idea that you've written a book called The Gift of the Body, because I think our body really kind of gets a short end of the stick sometimes in the way we think about it and how we treat it.
Like everybody, I came to this through my own process. And I would say early in my life, my attitude toward my body was that it was a prison. And I was waiting for the parole board to meet to let me go, because like many people, I had my own trauma. I had my own pain. I spent years working with the pain that I carried in my body, not understanding what it was from. What I came to understand, though, is, and why I call the gift of the body, is that this is a vehicle. I call it a vehicle, right? I call this the human energy vehicle. And it is a gift given to us so we can navigate through life, picking up experience and learning experience. So one of the ways we do learn is through the transformation of pain. But when we do what it seems to be counter-rational, which is actually enter the body rather than trying to stay out of it, many people who are sensitive have what I think is a misinterpretation, as I did, like, oh, I want to get out of here. So we do all kinds of things to get out of it, right? We numb ourselves. We escape through work and through mental things and through addictions and blah, blah, blah. I made the choice to go the other way, to say, okay, I am here, must be a reason, and to go into it. And what I discovered is that through the process of learning to transform that pain, underneath it were these incredible gifts. Besides the gift of pleasure, the gift of happiness, the gift of joy, the gift of insight. And so I came to understand that I had been offered the greatest gift in the universe. And I had basically, as you said, treated it badly for many years. So for me, it's a total gift.
Now, you talk about pain. Are you specifically referring to physical pain or also emotional pain?
They are very connected. In fact, in the way that I've come to understand and to see what I call the vehicle, right, the expanded vehicle, physical pain is mostly caused by congestion in the emotional body. In other words, there is physical pain. If you hit yourself, or you cut yourself, you're going to have pain, or you twist something. But what makes it linger and what makes the body have difficulty in transforming it and healing it, because that's what your body's designed to do, is that the emotional body, which is about 6 inches from the physical body and surrounds the body, gets to be like congealed clouds waiting to rain. Gets stuck, gets heavy. And so that heaviness then translates downward into what's called the etheric body, which is right next to the physical body, which is what the acupuncture points are in. And then eventually that pressure causes physical pain and causes it to linger. So they're really very much connected. I've never seen or in myself or worked with anybody where something that was manifesting physically didn't have an emotional component.
Typically, I work with people on emotional level or their thoughts, beliefs, and it's kind of like magic, because when you start working on that, physical issues start to clear up, even if that wasn't necessarily the original intent. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. And most of the cause of the emotional blockage is what you already referred to, is thoughts and beliefs. that are, so to speak, congealed beliefs, stuck beliefs, that, and each chakra, what each energy center, has its own mental body, has its own emotional body, has its own etheric body, has its own physical body, has its own spiritual body. And what are contained in those particular sub-levels in each chakra can be beliefs that eventually are causing pain, are causing stuckness. Originally, I had to believe that I wasn't lovable because that was the only way I was going to survive a situation, a family where I was being told that every day. So I had to decide that in order to survive. So I create a belief in the mental body of my heart chakra that restricts my heart so that I don't reach out to love. But then I get to be 25, 35, 45 years old, and all of a sudden I'm having pain in my chest and my relationships don't work. And I can't breathe well, and I don't understand why. Okay, we can do massage and we can do craniosacral and we can give herbs. But what if we literally unravel that belief that no longer serves? And the whole thing opens, all the layers open, 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 open. You see? And it's not instantaneous in most cases, but focusing specifically in the aura where that belief lives gives a tremendous boost to any other therapy that you do.
So in your work, Jonathan, you have mapped emotions and beliefs. Can you talk a little bit about where and how we store these emotions that we haven't fully processed?
For sure. Let me tell you first, if you don't mind, I'll tell you how I just started to discover this.
Absolutely.
There are people that say what they received was like, they'll say it's a download. Mine wasn't a download. Mine was like a scavenger hunt where they leave clues, right? And you follow and say, oh, okay, I got to go to the next house. Oh no, I got to go down the lane. I got to go into the forest. That was my way of discovering things. My guides were not, they didn't give it out to me all at once. It took 15 years. And the first time was, I have my story. I went to Brazil, to a mountain community where I did a very particular kind of healing work that was at that time only done there. And it opened up my healing channel that I didn't really know I had. I had been working for 12 years as an acupuncturist, very hard seeing many people, but this was a whole nother ball of wax. So when I came back from Brazil and I still kept treating people, my whole healing practice changed. One day, a woman's lying on my table, and what had started happening was my hands would just do things seemingly by themselves. And at that time, I didn't know what they were doing, but my hand would like hang over somebody for a few minutes, and then it would drop, and my other hand would then hang, and I would just really be observing. And then incredible things started happening with people. But at that time, I didn't have the sensitivity to know what was going on. So it's one day I'm holding my hand over this woman's solar plexus, right? Like over her stomach, about 1.5 feet up. And I'm just hanging there, not really knowing why. And all of a sudden, this thought pops into my head. I don't know who I am anymore. And it didn't happen to be one of the periods of my life when I didn't know who I was anymore. I've had a number of them. That wasn't one. So I thought, wow, I wonder what that is. So I said to the woman, I said, let me tell you what I just heard. I said, I just heard I don't know who I am anymore. She burst into tears. Oh my God, that's exactly what's happening. My life is transforming, falling apart. I lost my job. My relationship fell apart. I'm getting a divorce, blah, 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 blah. I was like, huh. And I went and wrote it down. Over the next 15 years, piece by piece, layer by layer, the same thing would happen. Or I would ask the person, or I would be in a class and I would say, okay, we're going to divide up into little groups of 3. Put your hand there and tell me what you feel. And I would write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. So that's what I came to discover, is that all these things that we believe are us actually have their place in the auric field. The aura field is not just a bunch of vibrating energy. It actually is subdivided very specifically. So, for instance, emotions. The emotion of fear, which many people have. Emotion of fear in Chinese medicine is connected to the kidneys. In this system, it's connected to the third chakra, because the third chakra is the place from which we live life on earth, that we interact with life. So if the perceived need is to protect ourselves from something outside us, fear is useful, right? If there's an actual tiger that's chasing you, fear is a good thing to have because you run away. But what happens is, out of stress, out of confusion, out of trauma, fear lodges itself in the third chakra. And it can be unconscious, and it'll spring out at various times when we get stimulated by something. But it can live there underneath, burbling, so to speak, constantly. After a while, it creates symptoms. It can create all kinds of symptoms of weakness and lack of movement, because fear mostly is freezing. So all kinds of stuckness can happen from that. It lodges itself in the emotional body of the third chakra. The other thing that happens from that is the third chakra, for many people that are sensitive, is the place that we receive energies from outside ourselves, energies from the air, energies from other people, and the emotional energies that are flying around in air, right? We live in a sea of thought, a sea of emotion. So my fear that has been repressed draws to it other fears. Mine gets augmented, and all of a sudden I'm ill, and I don't know why.
And from that place, that chakra can then deposit, I'm assuming this, can then deposit that fear in specific places in the body that actually become manifest as dis-ease or discomfort.
Absolutely. It's exactly what happens. And so because what the emotional body needs is flow, right? The purpose of emotion, energy in motion, emotion, the actual biological, energetic purpose of emotion is to create movement, right? So I cry and I feel way, way, way better. Why? Yeah, I've released my grief, but also I've created emotion. It's like taking a dam out of the river, and all of a sudden the river's flowing. So that stagnation caused by fear, right, then causes the organs that need motion, right, that need life force, that need energy, causes them to stagnate. And then it's the stagnation that causes the illness. So then there are various ways of working with the stagnation. Acupuncture works, herbs work, prayer works, but also can work directly with that emotional body to clear out the excess and then start to get the fear in motion.
You know, Jonathan, I have a beautiful story that so perfectly illustrates this. If you don't mind, I would love to share it.
Oh, I want to know it.
So I had this beautiful little old lady come to see me. She was 82 years old and a deacon in her church. So energy healing was totally outside of her comfort zone, let's say, but she was so desperate because she was in so much pain. She couldn't sleep for more than 2 hours, and she was on a waiting list for a double hip replacement. And so she came to see me and had her appointment, went home, slept for 10 hours straight, got up, had something to eat, went back to bed. So that's how quickly it can make a significant difference. She came probably, I think maybe 4 times. And it turned out all of this pain in her hip was repressed grief from when her only son, who was a fireman, drowned on vacation saving someone. And even though that was 15 years earlier, she couldn't think of him or even hear his name without bursting out in tears. And instead of processing that grief, she just buried it in her body. And in those 4 appointments she had with me, she didn't need her double hip replacement afterwards. That's amazing.
So beautiful.
And if you think about it, the hip is kind of the pelvic girdle, right? It's where we give birth through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As well as what I was going to say. It was her grief was held in her womb, huh?
Yeah. It really blew me away. Really did. So I love that you've actually mapped where emotions and thoughts reside in our energetic body.
Let me take it another step, if I may. Yesterday, I was doing a session with a young woman who has an incredible history, right? She was a heroin addict for many years. Her first child was literally taken away from her at the moment of birth for 7 months. She's been sober for 12 years. And so basically, she's teaching me. We're having this session. And she's talking about how she's changed her life, and she has. She has a beautiful life, and she has another child. But she was coming to me because she said, there's something more. There's something more, and there's something in the way of this next stage of my life. So I'm working with her, and here's what I felt. I felt the energy, the vibration of forgiveness arrive. She hadn't talked about it. Afterwards, we talked about it, right? She was holding guilt from the thing that happened, from what she felt like she had messed up her life and her family. So simultaneously with this feeling, the vibration, right? Wasn't a thought. I felt like, wow, the vibration of forgiveness has arrived for this young woman. So what I did was I picked up her hand. I used her hand as a pointer, right? And I started pointing out with her finger on her chest where the slot that forgiveness is implanted, waiting for that universal force to come and stimulate. I pointed to her. I said, okay, here's the center. This is a clock. Here's the center. Here's 12. Here's 6. Here's 3. Here's 9 on the right side. I said, forgiveness is at 7 o'clock. And she held her hand there. And I said, now just breathe. And she started crying. And then this guilt lifted off her. And at the end, she was just glowing. All I said to her, I said, look, it's done. Because that's what forgiveness does.
Beautiful.
Forgiveness makes everything now. It doesn't make what happened okay. It doesn't mean you don't have to make amends, but it means it's done. It's finished. And she was like, wow, okay. I said, so I don't know what you're going to do next, but whatever it is, you now you're free to do it.
You call your energy back from that past life situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. I could talk to you all day,
I
Jonathan.
could talk to you all day.
It's just my cup of tea for sure. I'd love if we could leave the listeners with a little inspiration or some tip where they could start to step into a place where they can have more peace inside themselves and not carry so much baggage that in the future is going to create problems for them physically if it hasn't already.
Do I have your permission to teach something very quickly?
Absolutely.
Because literally what you said, to have a place. And so that's what I do, is literally teach the place, not the place of thought, the place of vibration. So, okay, very quick, the energetic anatomy of the heart. The energetic anatomy of the heart chakra, right? The heart chakra extends in front. It's a cone. It's a wheel of vibrating energy. The different layers. At the center of the heart chakra, The most important place is the place of humility. Humility is like, if there's a flower, the center thing of the flower, right? And if it's a daisy, that little circle in the middle, it's humility. On top of that, if you just touch with your hands very gently right on your chest, is the place of calmness. You can radiate calmness to yourself, and you can radiate calmness to someone else just by opening your hands and extending that calmness. But here's the most important thing, and I'm going to show you this. If you make, with your hands, make a shelf sticking straight out from your chest, from the middle of your chest, make a shelf.
So your hands are parallel to the floor.
Parallel to the floor, parallel to the ceiling. You're making a shelf sticking straight out. Where your fingers are, the middle of your fingers, there is a band that extends all the way around your body, like a life preserver, all the way around your body. That literally is the place of compassion. Compassion is implanted in each gift of the body, in each human energy vehicle. Literally, everybody shares this. Even people who seem to don't have compassion, don't want compassion. It's there. Usually it gets stimulated by a tsunami or a tornado or a tragedy. What I learned from observing and from finding it in me is that I can walk out on that shelf, walk out to my fingers like it was a dock, sit with my feet in the lake and breathe. And compassion blooms in me. That's the answer that I know to healing, to hold that space of compassion for myself, for others, for the madness that's going on in the world, for the confusion, right? So that's what I would teach. And here's the thing that you get from it. You get to be okay with not knowing. And in this moment on earth, there's so much anxiety of people who want to know, that they make up all kinds of stories and get very confused. If you hang in the space of compassion, you know it's going to be okay somehow. And it is okay somehow. And you can relax. That's what I would leave people with.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. My experience with compassion, because when you get into that spiritual quality of compassion, for me, it's like there is no judgment. There's no need for forgiveness. There's only love. It's like a grandmother, just loves her grandchild. And even if they do something because they don't know any better, it's kind of like we don't know any better because we don't have that higher perspective while we're here. So what a beautiful gift to help people to tap into that quality. Thank you.
It's what I do. And for those who wish to learn more, you can go to our website, which is essentiallight.org. And I actually have done a 10-session series, 1.5 hours each. I did it in September, October, November, teaching this from the bottom up, literally in the body, the how-to of building the internal structure to be able to stay in the space of compassion and also to be able to receive light, to be a receptor and a transmitter of light. So there's lots of good things out there. Check them all out.
Wonderful, wonderful. And your book is called The Gift of the Body.
It's available in digital copy. I like the regular book because it has colored pictures in it.
Well, I don't know. For me, a book feels different than a digital book, but hey, it's all good. Thank you again for being my guest, Jonathan.
My honor. Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and your favorite podcast platform. Come and visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen and explore what energy medicine can do for you. That's it for this week. Bye for now.